Hey gang, Larry Bailey here with Awesome Technologies Inc., bringing you another community meeting. Who went in first? Chris Lawrence got the first post today. Congratulations, Chris. You are on your way to being a superstar. If you didn't realize that, there you go. Ding, ding, ding. Chicken wing dinner. There you go. Hey, winner, chicken dinner. So my name is Larry Bailey. I think I've said that. It's Tuesday, 4 o'clock Eastern, so we're getting together as a community in the Mortgage Doc community. For those listening on replay, get your butts over here if you can. Change your calendars around, do what you got to do, but get here at 4 o'clock on Tuesdays Eastern in the community, Mortgage Doc community, and join us for the fun. I tried to have a topic. The topics for May and June are trying to help yourself through a self-health check for your Encompass platform. Today's topic is all about reviewing your custom fields, your JIT logs, also known as just-in-time logs, loan folders, and custom print forms, to name a few. So as always, this is a community meeting, so if you have anything that you want to go over, please either use the chat or let me know that you want to come up on stage and you can talk through your own problem. Don't be shy. You do not need a video camera on if you're uncomfortable with that, but you do need a microphone. There is no call-in number, so we do that just to make sure that we've got the right folks in the community who are participating in the meeting. And so first of all, because today's the 21st and we had the .5 update happen over the last few business days, does anybody have any good stories to tell about how they enabled the auto retrieval in .5, assuming you have new doc viewer? So one of the things that came out, and I couldn't, there goes one of my cats, I couldn't figure out, because I haven't had enough time to delve into this. So if you figured out how to actually get that automated in the e-disclosure section for it to go to automatically retrieve, let me know. I'd love to hear more about it. You got ICE to turn on doc viewer about a week ago. Good job, Brian. I'm sure your users are super thrilled. Hopefully, I found 3 clients over the last week who A, didn't even know what new doc viewer was, B, were like, oh, that's what that was at the other company I worked at. Yes, and it will only work on new loans. That's true, Brian. It's kind of like enhanced conditions, right? When you have enhanced conditions turned on, it only affects new loans. It doesn't affect prior loans. So that is true. If you do enable new doc viewer, it will only be for new loans. Very true. So as I test out more about that, I'll certainly share that with the community. I'm sure I'll do a walkthrough once I figure out how to determine why it's not turned on. I don't think you had to open up a case. According to the release notes, it was just there, but I could have read it wrong. Angie says, waiting for feedback from the team to decide if they want the automation. Wait, Angie, they want to think about automatically having e-disclosures automatically uploaded into the e-folder. Okay. That's like the one thing everybody would love to have automated. The rest of this stuff I can understand. Like there's some workflow conversations going on there, but to automatically upload e-sign disclosures is kind of a no-brainer. It's kind of like, it's funny. So yesterday I was at the secondary conference in Manhattan. And by the way, anybody can go to the secondary conference in Manhattan. You do not need a badge if you just camp out on the 8th floor. I learned that lesson the $1,500 hard way yesterday. None of my friends told me like, Larry, don't get a badge. You don't need a badge, just show up. So I paid $1,500 and I showed up, and it was a good thing for the MBA, by the way. I did a post on LinkedIn. I did a couple of live session things. So CFPB is the director there is super aligned with not only saving the industry money, but saving borrowers money when it comes to credit reports. Read all about that. There was also a talk yesterday for someone, I forget honestly her position, but she was at liberty to talk about how there's a pilot that's going to be created for Fannie Mae to create waivers in DU that will not require lenders to have title insurance on a refinance loan. So it'll be a waiver that the lender can enable if they want on a refinance. So if you could imagine you just refinanced somebody last year, they haven't done anything, and all of a sudden now they want to refinance again, you got to bang them for another title refi. I think it's the biggest racket in the world, and I talk about that firsthand because I was a title producer, so I feel I've got the moxie to say that. Purchase, always get title insurance. Never, ever, ever, don't ever buy a piece of property without getting title insurance. Refinance, it's for the protection of the lender. It's not for the protection of the borrower. So anyway, that was talked about yesterday. So that was good for the MBA. But if you're ever in New York around for the MBA secondary, just head up to the Marriott. It's in Times Square. You can't miss it. Go to the 8th floor and go hang out with some cool peeps. So Candace says, going back to topic here, Candace says we're working on EHCs, enhanced conditions, I guess that is, right? And our testers have discovered there's no longer any condition indicators in the E folder, which they're bummed out. You have to either open Document Manager or go to the Conditions tab. What's a condition indicator, Candace? Tell me more about what a condition indicator is when you get a chance, and we'll see if we can talk about that. It's a great topic. The little yellow icon. Oh, I think that's a UI glitch. You're talking about in the Documents tab if it's tied to a condition. It's been noted. It's a known thing. Kind of like when ICE got rid of the date column. Now the date's back in the Documents tab. I don't think that's a permanent thing. Which I will tell you this too. So yesterday I had a chance to sit with somebody very senior at ICE, and the ability for ICE to continue these incremental rollouts is it's a change to their methodology in terms of what we've all been used to with Encompass over the years. It's in stark contrast to when Ellie Mae owned ICE and ran. When Ellie Mae owned Encompass and ran Encompass, it was more of a long vision. ICE is really different. And if you haven't noticed this, I'm just going to go on the record here. But their methodology is to do incremental updates, which is what a true software company wants to do, right? So it's the reason why we're seeing these, like we just got .5 over the weekend. We might get .6 before 24.2. But 24.2 is rolling out, and on LinkedIn, I did a little primer for ICE PPE. And I think it's going to be something a lot of people like, truthfully. I think it's going to give a lot of people pause to maybe different PPEs that are hot in the market right now in terms of customability and data interactions, because ICE PPE is built off of Partner Connect, which means I expect there's going to be very tight integration into Workflow Engine with ICE PPE as opposed to other providers, just saying. But we'll see. So anybody have any more questions about that stuff? Let's talk about custom fields. All right, here's the fun times. Custom fields. How many is too many? Quick, type in there, what do you think is too many custom fields? Because there's guidance on this, that there's lots of old wives' tales and old husbands' tales. And maybe even you had some guidance in writing from Ellie Mae or maybe even ICE PSO teams. And I want you to look at the chats here. So Angie's 3,000, Amy's like never too many, Chris no limit, Candace over 7,500, Denise 2,500, Robert's 5K plus. Jeremy's like, it should enhance existing fields, right? So why do you need a custom field at all? Well, you need custom fields because you have creativity. You have things that you're doing that are unique to your business in one way, shape, or form. And that's one of the beauties of Encompass. It's one of the reasons why I love Encompass as a platform, especially as compared to other platforms, because I can create anything I want, because our businesses tell us whatever they want. And so we have to answer that call. The general guidance from ICE, of course, over the years was, you want to be cognizant of the performance issues of your Encompass. A custom field itself, I think the general response is that there's a reasonable limit. To say there's no limit's not reasonable, but there's also not a known limit to affect performance just by creating the field. What is important to understand is custom field calculations. That's the part that ends up causing a ton of problems. Again, quick on the chat here. When does a custom field calculate? Anybody have answers? Amy says always, not always true. Candace says, don't, however, create a custom field for every standard field. Candace, I got you. So Heather's like loan open. Brian's like when you're in the loan. Lisa says when you add it to a business rule. Chris says form load. And so going back to Amy's comment where she says always. So we know that custom fields calculate when you do a couple of things to a loan file. First of all, when you commit a file, right? When you go to save, it runs all custom fields. When you go to open, unless you open it in a particular way through software, it will run the calcs. A lot of times you can get these batch update software programs, and different third parties have them. And you have two ways to update files. You can open the file, which runs all the field calcs, do a batch update, and then save and close, or you can just update the back end, which simply updates the field with the value that you want. And so Amy asks, a calced field, doesn't it always calc? And if you're talking about a standard calculation field, if the source of the calculation changes, yes, they will always calc. But what we're talking about is a custom field or a custom calculation. So slightly different. Candace adds only on loan open save or when a dependent field changes. And again, it depends, and I'm only being technical on this answer because if you're using a third-party API to update a field, it doesn't always mean all of your custom fields, custom calc fields change, even if a field changed. And so for those that have Optimal Blue and go back a few years, this was a problem with Optimal Blue updating. It's another reason why I talk about EPC, because when you're working with EPC and you're running automatic retrieval of services, or EPC automatically comes in and from a service provider and it updates those fields, this is when things get hairy. So hopefully you guys have baselined. Truthfully, show of hands, has anybody baselined their system recently? Meaning, did you record how quickly it takes to open Encompass to get to your pipeline? Did you record how quickly it takes to open a file, or to save a file, or to close a file? And if you haven't done that, please do that this month. Like, please. It's part of your health check. It's part of the things that you want to do. I'm going to tell you to do it until you get used to it. Do it once a month. That's like over the top, some people are going to say. But if you're making these changes, and as integration partners are coming in via EPC this year, you've got to make sure you keep a baseline, because if somebody comes to you and they're like, dude, Encompass sucks, like, what are you doing to our system? You can open up your baseline report and be like, well, April it was this, May it was that, June it was this other. If you do it every quarter and you're doing a lot of changes, you might miss an opportunity to catch something. So Candace adds, haven't had a chance to in the middle of a major project overhauling FDE rules. So if you're overhauling rules, it's especially a good time to do a baseline. And maybe you might think an FDE rule is no big deal because it really shouldn't affect load. But I'm telling you now, if you're going through if you're giving yourself a self-health check, establish your baseline no matter what you're doing. It takes 15, 20 minutes maybe. That kind of a thing. And Amy puts up a good point here on the chat, which is we were comparing network times versus VPN times. You definitely want to make sure that if your entire company is using VPN, that's what you should be baseline. Don't get into the habit of, well, I can do it outside it, because if your company is using VPN, that's your baseline. Now, if you want to have two separate baseline tables, I'm okay with that. But you got to remember, the point of baseline isn't for Encompass performance. It's what your user's performance is. Can be two totally different things. I could have a kick-ass performance on my 32 gig machine with high-speed internet directly to the Encompass server. But if you throw me on some workstation that the average person has in the company and put me on VPN, if it's totally different, what's the point of me baselining me? And so driving this home, again, this point of this health check isn't just for you and Encompass. It's what are your users working with? That's going to give you insights as far as what's going on. All right, so custom fields, the thing you want to know is how many of your fields are custom calculations, and do those custom calculations still matter? Are they still needed? And, do you want to create more custom calc fields in your Encompass if you're not using them? How do you know if you're not using them? Well, you'd have to understand why those custom fields were created, and you'd have to understand how they go into your workflow. That might be an impossible task for you, but it's one of those things where if you're looking at like everything in your Encompass because you're trying to improve, 5 seconds per file, because you've got 1,000 files running every day across 200 people, add up the seconds, gang. It's a lot of money. And so I encourage you to put that work in. So custom fields, if you don't know how many custom fields you have, and you don't know how many of those have custom field calcs, I highly encourage you to at least check out the settings analyzer from ATI. It's $200 a month. It's a 1-year agreement, and it lets you see everything, including all your custom field calc. And that brings us into JIT logs. This is kind of like a baseline question, but when was the last time you ran a JIT log, just-in-time log, just to see how many errors you have in your system? Probably never, right? You probably only run JIT logs because there's a problem ticket that you're running. You're trying to track down something. Candace has. Candace, tell us why you've done that. Was it the baseline? Were you trying to figure things out? Tell the community why you went out of your way to run a JIT log. Testing new rules. Okay, that's great. And so Jody says just to see errors, never to see what errors I have created, like how many times today. So you guys are doing great. You're doing, so for those that want to tie into what Candace and Jody are doing, when they create rules, they're going into JIT log to figure out if those rules are creating other errors. The rule itself is running fine, but is that rule that they're creating having a butterfly effect to the rest of the file? And so when you look at JIT logs, these just-in-time logs, the reason why we use those is because you want to make sure that you test in the combined session of what you're doing. So Candace adds, there is a persistent error that we haven't tracked down yet. I'm checking plugin times as well. Totally great. Now you could run a full diagnostic. And the challenge with the full diagnostic is it starts on Encompass creation, and it will give you like hundreds of thousands of lines of code, even perhaps depending on how long you let it run, it could top over hundreds of thousands. But the idea is trying to find these errors or these exceptions inside JIT logs are very important. So one of the things that ICE does really well with its admin training is it actually goes in and makes sure that you understand how to read a JIT log. One of the things that I want you to understand better is when you should run it and why you should run it. So if you haven't run a JIT log on your environment for a while, please do that. Pop quiz, right? For those of you who know, I teach Mastering Encompass for admins. I love my pop quizzes, right, Amy? So what are the 2 other places that you want to look for errors, or that you can look for errors inside of your overall Encompass environment besides JIT log? So there's 2 other places, and I'll give you a hint. One of them is not in desktop. So you've got 2 other places to look to see if business rules that you're running are causing errors. And it's not in diagnostic mode. It's not in JIT log. It's 2 other places. So Kevin's typing. I'm curious to see if he's got it. And like I said, one of them is not desktop. And so home screen customization reporting, it's not really going to tell you if there's an error. I'll give you another hint. It's if you're using Consumer Connect. And Rob's got one of them, and it's the new audit log on the web. So if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to go ahead and share screen, because it's also going to give me the other answer. See if I can do this correctly here. All right, and so first of all, the one that wasn't named, that's going to be down under additional services, and it's going to be down in why did I just go blank? Sorry, system right here. I get in the right spot. Loan error information. Loan error information is if you've got Consumer Connect running, and this is going to tell you if your Consumer Connect has any errors in business rules that you've created. So it tells you if it did. Some of the common business rule errors are access to fields. It could be custom calcs. I don't know. But hopefully you're checking this. If you've got Consumer Connect, you can look in a date range and you can select, but basically search. And if you have any loans with business rule errors, they'll show up here. It'll tell you some details and it'll give you in there. Oh, you got some custom calcs in there, Rob? Nice, nice. That's great. So that's one place. Here's what Rob was talking about. Brian's bragging. He's like, empty. Such a bragger, dude. Oh, you can't get to it from here. Sorry, gang. I got to learn my P's and Q's here. So let's get over into Encompass Web. Lisa's got a ton. Sorry, Lisa. That's not the one I want. That's not the one I want. I want this one. And I want this guy. And then I want this. Sorry, guys. It'll hit me up with Ping ID. You know the deal. And then I'll show you what I'm talking about. The automation thing that Rob pointed out. So once you come in here, as you're using web-based automation, you have to come over, log into Encompass Web, hit the waffle, and go to Automation Audit, this guy right here. Because you want to search by action. So one of the things that as you do these, as you go through and you're doing your self-health checks, maybe today this isn't important, but you want to make sure that you have this in your agenda to go in and look, updating, assigning roles. Did that thing actually do it? Did it actually go through and send out disclosures, right? Did it order the service? All of these things. And you want to check to see what happened to the bot. Because as a reminder, there are some of these automations that happen through workflow rules that after 24 hours, if it can't do what you tell it to do, it dies. It just won't do it. So keep an eye on those. Those are the three areas. So you got your diagnostic mode, which I include for full diagnostic and JIT log. You've got your audit thing here. And then going back over, you've got your loan error information. 3 places. Everybody good? Feel good? Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna go back to stop sharing. Come back over here. The next one on my checklist is folders. I recently did I'm in the middle of a project helping a client go from one LOS into Encompass, and in a non-retail channel situation. And I looked at the settings, and they had 47 loan folders. Who wants to guess how they had 47 loan folders? And I'm trying, and I'm not, maybe it wasn't 47, maybe it was 40. Anyway, it was a lot. What do you think they were doing in there that anybody who's listened to me, they use years? Yeah, Jill. Jill's right. Sean, I'm hearing you, right? So everybody's hearing me okay? Audio's okay? I got a new mic, so hopefully, I didn't even ask. Is the audio quality better? I've heard from others that it's okay. So yeah, Jill, Stephanie, those others, yes, they use years. So your loan folders, I'm a purist. I've got 3 loan folders in my imaginary mortgage company: prospect, active, completed. That's it. And Chris, you suck. Chris says, I haven't heard anything. So Jill says, we've had those when we started a new company. Stephanie and I removed them. Kudos to you, Stephanie. Way to go. But yeah, I do talk about loan folders because when you think about loan folders, what else should you be thinking about? Who wants to give me some ideas about what else you should be thinking about when if somebody's like, we need a new loan folder, and you're like, I don't think so. And they're like, absolutely, Larry, you better give me a new loan folder or else. What are the other things I should be thinking about when we think about loan folders, right? For me, it's a lot. And so I'm really stingy on my loan folder gifts to the business. You've got up in here, right? If we go over to loan setup, we've got our folders, right? No big deal. It's a big deal. You just add them. What's the big deal? Oh yeah, we got to worry about all of our user groups because they'll have to access, or we have to figure out what we want to do with the loan folders, right? That's the first thing. Second thing we got to worry about is we've got to worry about our business rules for loan folder business rules, right? And then we have to worry about pipeline views, reports, dashboards, third-party interfaces, APIs calling. We got to worry about training for users to move it from folder A to folder B, right? Prospects, no prospects, old prospects. You guys are getting my gist. So loan folders, if you've got more than a handful and you've only got one business channel, you should be thinking about how can you make this easier, not only on your system, but on your people. Remember, everybody has to use this thing that you're an administrator for, and I'm a huge, huge advocate to going and sitting in somebody else's chair using your Encompass. Walk a day in their shoe and see how much you love your Encompass. And if you love it because it does their job for them and it's a training opportunity, rock on. But if you're like, ugh, that sucks. Angie just admitted to 68 loan folders. We need a support group for Angie, please. Can we all just give Angie a hug and just say it'll be okay? Oh, Angie. What can we do to help? All right. Angie, is it years? Like, is it what? I appreciate you coming forward and you know, if you were here, you'd say, hi, I'm Angie and I have a loan folder problem. We've all been here, right? We've all, whether it's 10 or 15 or 68 and mergers, right? So you've got multiple businesses and you could have a situation here where 68 is justified because we need to make sure that only certain user groups have access to specific loan folders because of different businesses, right? And that might be part of the merger thing. So, and typically it's exactly what Angie's saying here. She inherits it. So the whole takeaway from this is be aware of what you have, right? Be aware and come up with a plan that makes sense for where your business is today and where it needs to get to tomorrow. That's the idea here. Because like I just showed you, I just rattled off 8 things, 10 things that ripple in and out all over the place, especially as the business continues to change, which it will. It will. Patty says she's got 50 in hers. Amy's got 19, but she's got 3 channels. And again, the whole point of this topic is to make you aware of what you have and to let you know that whatever it is, just make a plan. Just make a plan. And you'll figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, that's why we're here as a community. Ask. And if we want to get together as a special group for loan folder support team, whatever. We can figure it out. Or if we're near Amy, we can just hang out in her basement and she can teach us how to use loan folders. Right, Amy? Because I got the pad here somewhere. Things that happen in Amy's basement. It's got to be loan folders, right, Amy? Anyway, the last topic on here is oh wait, there's a question. Candace says, if you don't need access to closed files more than 3 years old very often, would you split them in archived, closed? No. And this is a great question. So this is my opinion, but it's what's worked. And the idea of a loan file, if it passes a certain age to move, it creates a future of never-ending folder moves. And that's not something I like. You might as well put years on them. So ICE will tell you that they don't like to have 1 million loans in a folder. So as long as you have less than 1 million, you're going to be fine. But the idea is after 7 years, you're purging anyway. Now, you might do to offsite cold storage, or you might do 3.4 backups or whatever it is that you do, or you might not do anything. But the idea here is, from my perspective, again, fewer folders, better Encompass, better user experience. I can find things. And by the way, everybody who's got more than 10 folders in your Encompass, you know, absolutely every time somebody goes to find something, they click all folders. That's what they have on every single one of their pipeline views because they can't find their loans. So listen, the last thing before I run out of time, I want to talk about was custom print forms. Gang, please manage your custom print forms in folders. I see this a lot where we've got everything in like the company-wide. You have no ability to bulk group in user groups the access to the custom print forms that are necessary for your users. So in English, if you folderize, yes, that's a real word, if you folderize all of your custom print forms for underwriting into an underwriting folder, or sales into a sales folder, or if you've got branch collateral or DBA collateral into that DBA branch collateral, that allows you to go into user groups. So again, if you've got your user groups kind of set up to where everything's in here, in all users, because it's too commingled, it's troubling, and it boxes you in horribly. Amy, you're sadistic. Amy says, I like to look through all of them, teaches them practice. So mean. So that was all I had for today. We're going to continue doing this. I promised you before some great news. So by July, we should be making the big announcement, a big announcement on Encompass user training for everybody out there. And I continue to work with others to bring better training to you and more information to you. So thanks to everybody for giving me the great feedback. If there's anything I can ever do to help you or your team with Encompass, obviously you know how to find me. And do the baselining, do all this stuff that I'm talking about. It will pay you dividends, I promise. And if there's ever any other topic that you think is worthwhile talking about, we will talk about it. And I'll see you next week. You guys be well. See you now.